I'm so delighted that you're here. Thanks for tuning in once again. You may have been following me for a while, and if you have been, you know that I don't believe that the cards you are dealt at the beginning of your life or throughout your life are the ones that you have to play with. Imagine that you're in a casino and the dealer gives you a few cards. You can say, no, dealer, take back these 3 cards and give me 3 better cards. And this is essentially what I do in everything, whether in business coaching, as I have tens of thousands of women to get to 10K a month or 50K a month or 100K a month, working so much less, or whether we are having you awaken to your feminine and manifest your delicious life. We look at what is it that we want to bring into your life. And yes, there is room for strategy and the tactical and the practical. Of course, that's the masculine perspective of creating the life or business that you want. But in society, we forget about the all-powerful feminine aspect, which is the vibration, the intention, the being part of manifesting what you want, being in vibrational alignment with what you want to call forth. And it's this alchemical marriage of the masculine strategy and the feminine intention and vibration that is the secret sauce. And today in the Fabienne Show podcast, I am introducing you to my dear friend, Natalie Ledwell, the founder of Mind Movies. And Mind Movies is a methodology around creating a video vision board that creates results very, very fast. I've used it twice so far in my life. I've purchased the program twice, and it is something that I have used. In the show notes, I give you a link to my very first Mind movie in 2008, and it literally changed my life, which is why I'm bringing you Natalie today. We have a really great conversation about what it takes to create a transformative mind movie. And this is something that I use with our business clients in Bold Heart Business. It's not just the strategy. It's also about using all the manifestation tools. And it will also be a part of the programs that I am rolling out over the next few weeks and months to help you on a personal level to bring forth that big dream, to become more of the woman you've always wanted to be unapologetically, to create that movement, to make that big move, to really awaken to your destiny. And if you'd like to hear more about these, I invite you to go to boldheart.com. And on the homepage, you'll see a yellow tab that says Become an Insider. Join my inner circle. And when you sign up for the newsletter, you'll start hearing about these new, affordable, high value programs that are for offering in the next few weeks. So join us on the newsletter and enjoy this episode with Natalie. Before I open the doors to that, I just want to say that you are an incredibly special person. You are so worthy of all that love and life have to offer. And I'm so glad to be in this conversation with you. Lots of love. Enjoy this episode. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of The Fabienne Show. This one is going to be really special for me on a few different levels. One, because my guest today is a personal friend, somebody that I've gotten to know even better over the course of probably at least a year. I have to say she's becoming somebody that I turn to and just have a lot of fun with. It's always lovely to have guests like that on your podcast, but her work has changed my life. I'll describe a little bit more about exactly how, but I want you to meet my great friend, Natalie Ledwell. Natalie, thank you for joining me today.
It is such an absolute pleasure to be here, and I can't wait to dive into our juicy conversation today.
Me too. Natalie, you are the founder of Mind Movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been sending people to your company
for 15 or how long have you been in business? Because I've been sending you people for that
16
long.
years. Yeah,
16
2008 was
years.
our big launch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
that makes me sound old.
listen, I tell people I've been in business 25 years, and that wasn't even my first business. So I've literally sent thousands and thousands of people to Mind Movies. And while I talk about it, because I've used it twice myself to create amazing results, I want you to describe what it is, how you got to create this, why it's important. Then I want to teach people how to use a process for manifesting bigger things in their life, whether it's for work, for money, for relationships, for health. So take us to the beginning.
The beginning for Mind Movies was back in 2006. And I remember having this monumental moment of frustration. My husband and I, at the time, we were serial entrepreneurs, but in the true sense of the word. At that moment in time, we had 4 businesses we were running concurrently. So
Oh my God.
it was so funny because it's like we're on, like a car up on a jack and the wheels were going and we had all this action happening. But I had this moment where I'm looking at my bills and I'm looking at my bank balance and going, what gives? Like, I'd started learning about personal development. One of my bosses, when I was 21 years old, handed me a set of Brian Tracy cassettes. Said, here, you should listen to this. I think you'd really enjoy it. I was like, what? I knew how to set goals and do all those kind of things. And I'm just like, I don't understand what's missing. A friend of mine suggested that I go online, order a DVD called The Secret. I'm like, okay. So watch this movie. Glenn and I both were just like, and I go, how did I miss this? Seems to be the missing piece. And then not long after that, a friend of ours approached us and he had created this little video, like this little slideshow. And it was PowerPoint slides that had affirmations written on them and then photos that matched the affirmations and a song. So this was his version of a vision board because he thought the original, versions where you stick up photos on cork boards and things, he was a little embarrassed by that. So he's like, no, this is kind of cool. And then he said, let's go into business together. Let's set up a website and, sell the instructions so people around the world can make these movies. And I'm like, dude, we have 4 businesses. We've got no time. I go, we know nothing about the internet. I mean, Glenn could hardly turn on a computer and I knew how to use Word and that was it. So that's where we started. And
how far we've come.
Then we put one little video up on YouTube, which we didn't realize till a little while later was completely illegal. I mean, we had the beginning of I Dream of Jeannie in there, and we had YouTube music and all this stuff that we didn't have permission to use. But that one little video had so many people coming to our website and purchasing our program that within months we had that many people emailing us going, this is changing my life.
Yeah.
I remember having something sparking inside of me. I'm like, boys, we need to get serious about this. How do we figure out this internet thing? So we bought a program online. Frank Kern was the guy who did that program. Then we came over to the US in April 2008, went to his seminar, got accepted into his mastermind group, spent 5 months just working 10 hours a day from this little bedroom in a little apartment underneath the flight path of San Diego Airport, just bootstrapping and just doing what we need to do to launch it to the world. Our launch ended up happening in September 2008 when everyone else was losing their home, their jobs and everything. We ended up doing a $700,000 week, selling a little $97 program because it could have gone either way, but obviously it was something that people were really looking for hope and wanting to rebuild.
That's when I bought it. I bought it in 2008. I'll tell the story later.
So there's that kind of what put us on the map. It was like, whew, okay. We went from this little 3 crazy Aussies having a little tinker with a email list of 8,000 people to now in a week we had 80,000 people on our list. Yeah. And then when we came back to the US the next year, we're getting emails from Jack Hanfield and Bob Proctor and John Assaraf and going, guys, let's work together. We're like, okay, that's kind of where we got started. Now it's like, 16 years later, we've reached over 10 million people. We also now kind of branching a lot into emotional intelligence and mental well-being and working with kids and the whole thing. It's been a ride, to say the least.
So I discovered this process. Just if you're listening, I just want to share with you just how powerful it was for me. In 2007, in December, had flown in my OBM, my online business manager, and another VA, one from California, one from Columbus or something like that, to Connecticut. We're going to do a 3-day event at the local Marriott I was going to map out how in 2008, I was going to get to $1 million in my business. Now in 2007, I made 385,000, I think, around.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's okay to share numbers, everybody. I just want to inspire you and normalize women at $1 million. I made 385 and I said to my team, I'm just doubling down or tripling down. I want to triple to $1 million. I had created this forecast on an Excel spreadsheet with all these rows that said, okay, I'm going to launch this and I'm going to do a 3-day event. I'm going to do a mastermind at the end of the 3-day event. I'm going to do these special reports and sell them for 20, I don't know, whatever I was selling it for at the time. And I worked on this forecast again and again and again until I hit the $1 million number on the spreadsheet. And I get tears in my eyes. It wasn't about the money, Natalie. It was like, holy cow, I think I can actually do this. That was the first time that I believed it, because I was like, okay, it's going to take some work, but nothing on this list. I still teach people, I give people my spreadsheet when they work with us in the Bold Heart Business Program. We do this together just for the belief part. But as I was starting to work with my team, once I flew them in and I said, okay, ladies, let's map out the entire year. I want to know when we're launching what, when the heads up email is, when there's the shop, the masterclass, and when is the cart open, all that. But then I started really working on my beliefs, and it was like, there's all this stuff like, can you really do it? Is it really worth it? Is it going to work? All of that. Then somebody told me about mind movies. And it was this bringing your vision board to life, but because you brought it to life with moving images and affirmations, not just something you clip out of a magazine, although if that's what you do, kudos. We're talking about here like not 2.0, like 20.0. The emotion that came, I picked a Celine Dion song, the emotion that came from watching it. I remember creating it in the middle of the night in August of 2008. I had not yet reached $1 million. And it's as if I was being guided by either my higher self, the divine, or whatever. But some of the images in the movie, I would never have put myself. Lo and behold, 6 months later, not even actually, 3 months later, in October of 2008, during the world financial crisis, I reached $1 million. I don't remember what the rest of the numbers were. And we weren't even done with the year. Mm-hmm. I cried and I cried. People tell me, like, how did you do it? I'm like, there's a bunch of different things, but I created a new self-image. I busted through beliefs. I created new neural pathways in my brain. And I just watched that thing all day long. So I just want to say to you, Natalie, kudos to you for making this happen with your business partner, because you literally changed my life and the life of thousands of people.
Well, I did give you a tool to help you do that. So,
yeah, yes.
And that's the thing with a mind movie, like going through the process of figuring out what you want and articulating that so comprehensively is amazing. But when you're watching that mind movie, and the music is the secret sauce, because when you're visualizing this future that you want or daring to dream, not only do you want to see yourself already living that life, but you also want to feel the emotions that you will be feeling when you're experiencing this life, when you're in these moments. And when you do visualize, you want to just choose a moment at a time and just really dimensionalize it. Use all of your senses and make it so real your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference and actually thinks it's your reality. So that's why choosing the music is so important, because that emotional part, we talk about the law of attraction, and that was obviously a big part of my message. We want to be a vibrational match to the things that we want. And you go, but what does that mean? What does that actually mean?
You guys, as you're listening, I just want you to know one of the things I love most about Natalie is that, Natalie, you have a super sarcastic sense of humor. Sometimes it's spicy. We're not going to swear today, but you and I, when we get together, it's so much fun. So I already see that coming out.
Sometimes speakers go say these big sayings. You go, yeah, but what does that actually mean? They don't get it. But anyway, so if we go, I want to be a vibrational match to the things that I want. What is my vibration? How do I change it? How do I manipulate my vibration? Well, the frequency that we send out into the universe, because everything is made up of energy, everything else that we're looking at is made up of energy, is our thoughts and emotions. That's what affects our frequency. So when our thoughts and emotions are completely in alignment with these moments that we will be experiencing once this happens, then we are at this vibrational match. But something that you dropped in your story before, which is really, really important, is this whole belief component, belief and expectation. Two very important ingredients when it comes to creating the life that you want. When you have a certain level of success, you really want to take a moment, celebrate it, and acknowledge it. When you said that you were sitting there and you were crying because you got to that point, the events that we have in our life that we have the most intense emotional responses to, these are the things that really get programmed into our mind and stay there. You don't necessarily have to cry, but you could have some kind of strong emotional response when you start to reach these milestones and you're on your way to success, because what that does is build your belief. Because then you're just going through life as if, well, of course that's going to happen. And then you find yourself saying, oh, everything always works out for me. Because it does, because you expect it to.
I led a 3-day event for maybe 17 years called the Mindset Retreat. I think I'm going to dust it off and recalibrate it for today's times. But I have to say, a big part of that on day 2 was like, okay, dream a bigger dream. But on day 2, let's examine your beliefs, because you will never manifest or attract what you don't believe you deserve. Mm-hmm. Or what you don't expect. It's the same 2 things that you just mentioned right now. You need the belief and you need the expectation that it's on its way to you.
Yeah.
Even before we go there, Natalie, I want to talk about, because in the Mindset Retreat, the first day was about dreaming a bigger dream. The reason I want to first address that in our delicious conversation today is that the listeners of the Fabienne Show are already established as a business owner. They tend to be achievers, people who make things happen.
GSD. Get stuff done.
Get stuff done. A lot of them are feeling some sort of divine discontent. What I mean by that is they've achieved stuff. They have a pretty good life on the outside. But inside, they're feeling a stirring for something more. The part when people say, why divine discontent and not just discontent, is because it doesn't actually make sense. Logically, they have it all. Like I had it all when I lived in the States. I'm like, why am I going to turn my life upside down to move to France or other things like that? So it doesn't make sense. So it's got to be this divine discontent. They're feeling that there's a redirection in place. They want greater alignment. But when you say, what is that move you want to make? What is that movement? What's the something bigger? She goes, I don't know, but I know something is there. My answer is, let's dream a bigger dream. Let's get clear on what it is that stirs your soul, that moves you to tears, good or bad. The dream you've been pushing down in the water like a beach ball for 25 years, not giving yourself permission. Let's go bigger. I know that you're an expert in helping people really define what they want, even when they don't know what they want. Would you take us through that process today?
Well, what I get people to do is to write out a list of affirmations, and this is where you want to start. So whether you're making a mind movie or a vision board, or if you just want to have this written out, the reason I use affirmations is not because you want to stand in front of the mirror and start reciting them, because, you know, that it may not be in your reality just yet, and that feels like a massive disconnection. But we have to write these in present tense using the right language, because every word will conjure up a picture in our mind, because this is the list that you're reading and then going into the visualization and visualizing as if it's happening now. That's why we use affirmations. It has to be explained as if it's happening now. Let's just say the first kind of affirmation I get people to write out is what it is that you want. Now, you may not know what that is just yet, but you will have a general direction in which you think you want to go. It could be something like, I want to start a movement, I want to start a foundation, I want a passion-fueled business where I feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose. You may even know who you might want to be serving when you're going into these different projects. You might put those things down, and that's all you need for now. You can just start from there. You don't have to have the whole plan. Start with what it is that you want. Describe what life looks like once you get there. Now, this particular affirmations are really the fuel for your visualizations because you want to be choosing one moment that you're going to experience. You're thinking about, well, who am I working with? Am I traveling? How many hours a day am I working? Who am I working with? Think of all these different things. And maybe there's things in your life that you want to change. Maybe you're working really hard right now and you're feeling overwhelmed and you're like, you know what? I want to be earning this amount of money, but working for half the amount of time. So dare to put that down because that might not seem like it's possible right now. But I can tell you 100 different examples of people that once they make their mind movies, things start to happen really quickly. It will blow your hair back. You will see it happening. So think about that, even though it doesn't seem possible right now. What does life look like?
One of the things I'd like to add is that the thing that got me to 380,000 a year was a tiny little mantra. And it was this, and the bold heart, as you're listening here, boldies, what this is I make twice as much working half the time. It's something that I said all over my life. I taped it. This was like pre-digital things. I taped it to the back of my phone, on my stapler, on my this, on my that. Everywhere I turned in my life, it said, I make twice as much working half the time. I didn't believe it at first. I was like, how the hell is this going to happen? But I just took the action to put it all around me.
I love that. The next type of affirmation is your why. And I break the why down into 3 different categories. There's the why for the people that I'm serving. So, if you have an idea of the type of group of people that you want to be helping, what's the transformation or how are they positively affected by what you're creating? I think about the why for the people that I love. And these 2 are those extrinsic reasons, which sometimes is better for us. For some of us women, we're like, if we're doing it for someone else, it's going to motivate us more than if it's just for me. Then, of course, you want to put something in there for yourself as well. You can be as selfish or whatever as you want here. I know I have a girlfriend who built a really successful business because she wanted to be able to afford to have a massage once a week. And I'm like, all right, whatever blows your skirt up.
Whatever is going to get you there.
Exactly. Okay, so there's your whys. And I also think about actions. There's certain things that you need to be doing, changing your daily practice, releasing some old bad habits, taking on some new ones. What does that kind of look like? Add those in as affirmations. The next ones are what I call your thought affirmations, because we know our thoughts create our reality. As you touched on before, Fabienne, especially when we start to stretch ourselves and dare to go into something that maybe was a little scary, this is when we really rub up against our old programming and our limiting beliefs comes to the surface. If you're aware of what these thoughts are and go, okay, if I'm choosing to release them, what will I be replacing those thoughts with? Make sure you add them in this list because you're reminding yourself. You can also visualize yourself acting from these new thought paradigms and seeing how they positively affect your outcomes while you're in your visualizations, which is pretty cool. It makes it easier for you to start adopting those. And then the last type of affirmation is, who do you want to be? Or who do you need to become? How do you want the world to see you? What characteristics, what personality traits, who are you becoming stepping into this big, bold, new life? When you have that, that's a very comprehensive list of, you've basically described everything you need to be able to see, think, and feel this future into existence.
One of the things I'd like to weave in here is the you who created the results that you have today is not the you who will create your next big move, result, level. As Natalie is sharing with us, you actually have to become a different person on the inside. It's really by elevating your self-image, looking at what your old beliefs have been. If they're not in alignment with that big dream that you're manifesting, that big move, then there's a disconnect there and they need to be aligned. Your vision needs to align with your beliefs or vice versa. Otherwise, you'll never reach that next big goal. You need to transform. One of the reasons why this is a tool that works so well, has for me and our members and clients, is because with these affirmations and everything that Natalie's going to share with us, you are actually creating new beliefs every time you watch this mind movie. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Not only are you creating new beliefs and building your belief, But what we're also doing scientifically is training our reticular activating system, which is this little bundle of nerves at the base of the brain, and it serves as the gatekeeper between the 40 million bits of data that our subconscious mind is processing every second and the 40 bits of data that make it through to the conscious mind. It acts as the gatekeeper. If you're watching your mind movie on a regular basis, you are saying, look, this is of interest to me. Anything that comes up in that 40 million bits of data that is relevant to this future that you're creating, you will start to notice it. You'll start to become aware. You'll start to see these people and these emails and these opportunities that may have already been there, but because your antenna wasn't up looking for those kind of things, sometimes you miss it. So it helps you to really focus on and see all the things that are coming up and things that maybe in the past you might not have thought was relevant to what it is that you're doing, but now you're like, oh, now I see how that could work. It's a whole different
It's like
scenario.
that white car on the road, the reticular activated system. When you tell it what to look for, it will find it again and again.
Yeah.
And it changes you, I think, on a cellular level. But that maybe is just not truly cellular, but I like to say it is.
I remember when I was living in Sydney, I wanted a new car, but I wanted a convertible, but I wanted a hardtop. Glenn at the time, he did some research. He goes, we should get a VW EOS. I go, what the hell's a VW EOS? I've never even heard of that. And he showed me a picture online. I'm like, oh, that's cute. It's a cute little car. Next time I said, day, I saw 10 of them. I've never seen these cars before.
That's how the mind movie works. So this is an opportunity for you to use these areas of affirmations and craft that bigger dream. And I would invite you to make it way out of your comfort zone. Tell me about that, Natalie.
If you're someone that's listening to this particular podcast and you're part of Fabienne's community, you already know that you can create big things. You already know that. I think that going into this next chapter or this next era, sometimes it's not the doing of it, but it's the who am I being? And then you're going, I think a lot of women that I've been working with anyway, are going into this new vocation that everyone else in their life is going, are you crazy? Are you mad? Why would you do this? Why would you step away from this security and this money and everything to do this? That's why a mind movie is going to be really important for you, because it really does help you to not just articulate it comprehensively, but for you to step into something like that when there's not a lot of support from the people around you, and even to yourself sometimes you go, am I crazy? Because this seems to be pretty crazy. When you attach the emotion to it, that's what really helps you to step into it in a way that you go, no, I can see that this is what I'm meant to do. I've been working on a project with, for children and emotional intelligence and things. And for a while, I remember when I got the download to do this, and I'm like, I left school when I was 15. I didn't even finish high school. I don't even have kids. No, this is not meant for me. Something would come in and all these opportunities came in. And so I kind of just started going along with it. And there was one year and I went, okay, look, I've got to choose between a TV show, a book, and a kids program. Not going to be the kids program. I'm not qualified, blah, blah, blah. But then next thing you know, my colleague of mine's coming in and go, let's do this thing. Every time I try to walk away from this, it keeps dragging me back.
It's that divine redirection. And you're like, this does not make sense.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I think we have to also create a practice where you can be in the quiet, you can be in contemplation, where you can ask the right questions and the deeper questions, stay quiet long enough to be able to hear the answer, because what will navigate you through to this more meaningful and purposeful and joyful next project will be guidance. It doesn't matter where that comes from, because people go, well, if you get that download, where's it come from? It could be intuition, could be spirit guides, could be God, who knows? Doesn't matter. If it's coming through to you, it's really important that you have a practice where you sit quiet enough and open up to be able to hear the answer for that to come through, and for you to take action on it, regardless of how crazy it may seem.
Yeah. We women are cultured and raised and reared to keep ourselves really, really busy. A lot of the women listening to this are listening because they're going through the motions of life. They're putting the needs of others before their own. Their days are driven by other people's obligations. While they're strong, they are still saying yes. What they see at the end of the day is there's no time left for them. So what I think Natalie and I are saying is if you could just carve out 5-10 minutes before the kids get up, before you reach for your phone and look at your email, to just give yourself those 5-10 minutes to really listen to what the quiet wants to tell you. The quiet being God, Goddess, universe, your higher self, your spirit guides. What does the quiet, the void, the space want you to hear? Because there's so much richness there.
Yeah. I think the other thing that's really important for us at this time of the life is that anything that we haven't really dealt with before now, like our old programming, our life lessons, those kind of things that because we've been so doing and achieving, we haven't had to face yet. This is the time of life where it's all going to come to the surface. And especially when we're stretching ourselves to go into something that does seem like it's part of our purpose or that's quite meaningful. So, making sure that you are in a community or that you have a coach or that you have the courage to really look at and heal and forgive and face these things as they come up, because this is part of who you become.
You're not going to do these things in between client appointments or online at the doctor's office, right? It's like such a joke, right? What I think is really important about what you're saying as well is that we can stretch our thinking, but without the right community, mentorship, or tools for accountability, for focus, we're left in isolation. Here's the problem with that, is in studying and working with tens of thousands of women over these 25 years, I have learned a very simple concept. Isolation breeds self-doubt, especially in women. Oh, yeah. Isolation breeds self-doubt. Here's what happens. We can get that divine download. We can journal and all these things can happen. Yet, while we may have that excitement the first day, we're like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is going to change the world, or this is going to make me $1 million. 24 hours later, we're like, oh, I'm so busy. I mean, maybe I'll do that next year. 24 hours later, and the studies have shown that the law of diminishing intent gives you 2 days between conception, idea, download, to giving it up when we're on our own. When we have a mentor, when we have a community who's got skin in the game and who will also get outside of their comfort zone to make it happen, that's when we will actually do it. Otherwise, we'll give up within 48 hours.
Yeah. I remember the pandemic, like during the pandemic, and it wasn't really, I didn't notice it until I was back out in the world. And Fabian and I know each other through a group called the Transformational Leader Council. I'm also part of another group called ATL, which is the Association of Transformational Leaders. But anyway, I have intentionally surrounded myself with amazing, beautiful transformational leaders who are doing fantastic things in the world. And it wasn't until I was back in those groups again, having that constant reflection back to me of what I'm capable of. I mean, that voice of self-doubt got really loud during the pandemic. And I didn't notice it until I was kind of out and back in with my peeps. I'm like, oh, God, I miss this.
Right. You know what I did, which is absolutely crazy? Before the pandemic, I met somebody in a mastermind personal growth group. When the pandemic hit, I called him and I said, I need to talk to you. Would you be my daily accountability buddy? He's like, sure. What time? Well, my kids get up at 7 and they have online school. So how early can you meet? He's like, I can meet at 6. I met a person and talked every day from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. for a year and a half during the pandemic, just so I wouldn't go into that place of doubt.
Well, we started too. There was a group of us women, and we'd get together on a Sunday afternoon. Some were mothers, and of course, we all had communities that we were supporting. I remember in the beginning, I was live every single day, partly to support the community and partly for my own sanity, because I'm like, I need to feel like I'm doing something. So we were able to talk about a whole bunch of different things. And being at this time of our life, I love the female friendships I have at this time of my life, because, we're not competing anymore. We get it, but we're truly in this place where we can be very honest too. honest and authentic about what it is that we're struggling with and what we're going through, we also have the embodiment to be able to hold space for our girlfriends as well. That, when they're sharing with us, we're not judging, we're not fixing, we're not doing anything of that. And we're just being there so that we can be in support. But if you don't have girlfriends like that in your life, I highly recommend that you find a community and a program and something that you can get into that's really going to help you support you through these times. Because when you go into a new relationship or a new business or a new whatever, this is when these things come to the surface. There's always another level,
Well, if you're somebody who's growing, and the ladies listening to this understand that if you don't grow, you die, we need to give voice to that stirring inside. Natalie, the music in the Mind movies, for me, I've done 2 Mind movies. By the way, listeners, I'll link Mind movies, but I'll link my Mind movie in the show notes. For me, the music was one of the most powerful parts. I chose Celine Dion, Taking Chances, for the first one.
Oof.
And I chose Beyonce. What's the one that she does? I Was Here. Is that the one?
Oh, yeah. I've got goosebumps just thinking about
Me
that.
too. I think picking the right music that stirs your emotion, even without the affirmations, even without the images, is really a powerful way to do it. Any advice around the music? I mean, personally, I know you didn't ask me to do this, but I think everybody should go get Mind movies, like 100% of people. But you didn't ask me to do that, and I would only do it if I'd used it.
That's great. The music is so important. I also traveled and worked with Dr. Joe Dispenza for 9 years, and he used Mind movies in his events. And how he would do it, you can do something similar. We'd watch this kaleidoscope thing, which would take us into trance. And when you're in trance, you're in suggestible mind. You're watching the kaleidoscope, and then everyone would just open up their device. I remember the first time I saw these hundreds of people with their faces lit up. Everyone's got their headphones in, and hearing the emotional response from people watching their Mind movie was just crazy. So we watch the Mind movie repetitively, then we go back to the kaleidoscope, then back to the Mind movie. But then we go back to the kaleidoscope and listen to the song from the Mind movie. Now the song becomes an anchor. Yeah. This is why it is so important that you choose the right song. The song that I chose to my original Mind movie back in 2006 was Clocks by Coldplay. I can't even listen to that song and not bawl my eyes out. It has become, because it was the beginning of this entire beautiful life that I get to live. When I'm doing a health Mind movie, it's always something uplifting. I think the latest one is Demi Lovato, Confident, is the one that I've got on my last one. Love Mind movie. I use a love song. I had to update my Love Mind movie just recently. And I think I better change the song. My last Love Mind movie did attract my love partner, and we were together for 3.5 years. And it was a very intentional and purposeful and healing relationship for me to be in. And then it was done. Now it's like, okay, I want everything that I had. He was everything I asked for. Like, I still want all of that. And he had a few things I didn't want, so I'm going to add some other stuff. So,
and just to circle back around to the music part of it, I asked Derek, because I couldn't figure out how to do this. I know you know Derek, but I asked him to have my cell phone ring be the song on my Mind movie. When it would, I'd be out to drinks with girlfriends and my phone would ring. It would immediately take me to my Mind movie. And people would be like, what's that? I'm manifesting my bigger future. And they're like, have another drink.
But you bring up an important point, because when you are visualizing, you want to imagine a moment, like, what are you seeing? What are you smelling? What are you touching? What are you tasting? What's going on around you? Feel the sun on your skin, or whatever that is. You want to make sure that you're fully immersed in that. Now, once you've created that the first couple of times with your eyes closed, whatever, you don't have to be sitting down with your eyes closed to go there in your mind. You could be out walking. You could be driving the car. You could be vacuuming the house. You could be doing anything. The more often you do that, what happens is you're creating these new neural pathways in your brain. Along those new neural pathways are thoughts that are in alignment with this future that your subconscious mind thinks is your reality right now. We talked about the old way of thinking in our old programs. Well, we need to replace those thoughts. Those thoughts travel along pretty strong neural pathways, because some of us, we've been thinking those thoughts 50 years, right? So it's going to take a little bit to overcome those. It's not like that neural pathway disappears. it will atrophy, but we need to be creating these new neural pathways with these new thoughts. The more often you can vacation in your future, in your mind, then the faster you create those neural pathways. That's a really important part. But create those visions, play the music, and even if it's like you're not seeing anything visually, as long as you're feeling those emotions,
Feeling.
that's
Yes,
the
the
most
feeling.
important part.
One of the things that I discovered a very long time ago is you can give people the strategy, whether it's the strategy to get to 10K a month or to 100K a month. It doesn't matter if they don't believe and expect or have the self-image to match. I have woven this into the Bold Heart program, to everything I do, because you cannot reach your next level unless you change your inner dialogue, your inner image, your inner beliefs. This is a non-negotiable. Even the book I wrote, The Leverage Business, it's a mindset book. It starts with the shifts in your mindset, because it doesn't matter. I can tell you how to change your business model to make 100,000 a month. You won't do it unless you can embrace the beliefs that are tied into it. And I really appreciate that you have helped tens of millions of people to dream a bigger dream and shift their inner landscape so that they easily manifest what they want. Natalie, I'd love to have you tell us about your offerings. But before we do that, I know that you have a passion project that you're working on. Is there any chance that you would tell us about the emotional intelligence and all of that? Because in essence, you are the woman who listens to this podcast. You have it all, right? You live in a beautiful part of California. You have an incredibly successful business. You are surrounded by incredible friends. And this thing came into your life and you were like, wait, what? This isn't for me.
Yeah.
Tell us about this, whatever you're willing to share about the process of saying yes as we wrap
Yeah,
into.
this has really manifested right now. This version of this mission is now in an app called FeelWise. The FeelWise app is really about helping you with your emotional awareness, emotional intelligence. There's education and so forth. We're using AI to help humans to become better humans. The app is for 13 years and up, and we're just about to work with a number of military schools here in the US, which I'm super excited about. We have little 14-day and 21-day challenges and so forth. We're getting the kids enrolled in that. But basically, with the app, you check in every day. That means talking or counting into your phone for 15 seconds. And then we can measure the emotional frequency that you're holding in that moment through the frequency of your voice. You know what
Wow.
emotions you're holding in that moment. Then we give you a little energy report and go, okay, here's your scores. We've got 6 positive emotions and 6 lower frequency emotions. Then you click on them and we give you little things that you can do, like little breath work or 5-minute meditation or something that's going to help you to shift that energy. So I've been delving really deep into the app in the last few weeks because I've realized, and it's not lost on me, that I need to increase my emotional intelligence. I just did an Enneagram assessment, and it turns out I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. I remember getting this 23-page report, but in the very first paragraph, it goes, you will do anything to go towards pleasure and fun to avoid pain and feelings. I'm like, maybe I should start getting in touch with my feelings. So this app has been fantastic for that. We also have Oscar the owl. He's a little guide in there, but I've been having some very deep conversations with Oscar about like loneliness popped up for me. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I don't think I'm lonely. I would sit in there and go, well, if loneliness is part of my frequency right now, where would that be showing up? Or one day it was anger. I realized I had talked to my dad and I had this underlying anger about what happened when we were kids with my mum and blah, blah, blah. But I realized that this is what's happening. I get this ability to sit in my emotions, understand where that is, and then have things that I can proactively do that is going to help to shift that emotion and to heal that. So this is the new version of what's happening with this whole project. I honestly think that because so many of us are struggling emotionally. To be honest with you, part of my realizing I'm going towards pleasure to avoid the feelings is that I was having that extra glass of wine every night. And I'm thinking, I need to pull back on this. I have a little app that I'm keeping myself accountable there, but I'm also using my FeelWise app to go, okay, so what am I feeling now? What is the emotions that I'm holding in my system right now? What can I do to be able to shift that? Because it's not just that I'm drinking that extra glass of wine. It's like, well, why am I doing that?
Yeah.
And I get to get underneath it. It's quite the journey. But this
I
is for
really,
13 years and up, really for families as well. Families can do this
yeah,
together.
I really appreciate you telling us about this app because it feels like an easy way to do personal growth and development work at home. I especially appreciate your vulnerability. What I really celebrate is people who are successful, who are willing to be authentic and vulnerable and not look like or not position themselves as if they're on this pedestal and they have nothing to learn and nowhere to grow. This is who I am in the sense like I'm always looking to make myself better. We've shared resources with each other.
Yeah.
I just really celebrate who you are in the world, Natalie. I love being with you. I love the things that you create. I'm watching this space so much. So thank you for being here. Would you please share how people who are listening today can dive deeper or find out more about Mind Movies if they would like to? What's available for them?
Yeah. So what I'll do is supply you with a link so people, if they wanted to, can just download 6 pre-made My Movies. That way you get a clear idea of what it is that we're talking about. When you watch these pre-made My Movies, they actually help you to figure out what it is that you want as well. Like they're kind of generic, but you go, oh, if I was making a My Movie, I would add this. This is what this means to me. That's a really good way to do that. If you wanted to just jump straight in and make a Mind Movie, then we will supply an app for that, a link for that, sorry. It's $97 and you have a lifetime access to make as many movies as you like. You know, I make at least 2 or 3 a year. Every time I go into something new, it's like, okay, I want to get clear about, what this is so that I can help to manifest that at a much faster rate. And I'll give you a link for the FeelWise app as well so you can check it out.
Please do. I use it. I think you should use it too. Any parting words of advice or something that really is your North Star, a little mantra, a favorite book or resource that we haven't talked about yet today?
Yes, I have one. Because as you're going through these changes, and especially when you're trying to change your mindset, overcome these programs and these thoughts that we have, a girlfriend of mine, Lisa Thomas, taught me this really cool little mantra that I use all the time. It's part pattern interrupt and part compassion for yourself. So when you catch yourself thinking a thought that you've already decided you wanted to release, rather than beat yourself up and go, damn it, I didn't want to think that thought, you just stop for a moment, take a breath, and just go, cancel, cancel, cancel. Only love exists here. What that does, it gives you pause enough to remember what you were going to replace that thought with and to go into that, but to do it without getting annoyed with yourself or getting upset, because that's a lower frequency emotion we don't want to get into. We want to keep compassion for ourselves, understand that it's a process. Before long, you realize that you don't need to use that mantra anymore.
I really appreciate that. I use cancel, 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 but I never followed up with anything else. So repeat the second part. Only love exists here.
Only love exists here.
Okay. Starting today, I'll be saying that each time I catch myself. Thank you, Natalie, my dear friend, for sharing your heart, your soul, your wisdom, your resources. I'd love to have you back one day.
Oh, I love you too, darling. Can't wait to see you again.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll see you next time.